Hey everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Green Minimalist Life. Today I want to talk about how behavioral science can help to promote eco-friendly behavior. Environmental problems are the cause of individual behavior of households and firms. So we have to tackle these problems by addressing them down to their roots. Human behavior. Here, behavioral science can help us to understand behavioral mechanisms that lead to greenhouse emissions or other environmental problems. So we humans are not acting rational, but rather use heuristics and biases that guide our automatic and fast decision-making throughout the day. According to the behavior experts Teir and Nathan, deviations from rational decision-making can be categorized into three categories, namely bounded rationality, bounded willpower, and bounded self-interest. Let me explain in the following these three categories that explain different biases and how they can be addressed and promote eco-friendly behavior. Coming to the first one, bounded rationality. So we have to make thousands of decisions every day, most of them which are automatic and subconsciously. So in some cases we're not fully aware of our decision-making processes due to our limited cognitive abilities. Coming to the first bias, namely the framing effect, explains how our decisions are influenced only by the way choices are presented. Although an information that is framed differently, but logically is the same, we tend to choose the positive framed option, since losses are a sign of painful emotions to us. Here is an example to demonstrate. So, you have a chance, or a 10% chance to win $100 and a 90% chance to lose $5. Or, you have the other option, buying a raffle ticket for the $5, that gives you a 10% chance to win $105 and a 90% chance of winning nothing. So, which one would you choose? I guess probably first one, right? So, here comes the solution. So, when it comes to preventive interventions, complex information should be simplified and framed in a positive gain frame in order to emphasize the good consequences of the desired behavior change. Energy efficiency labels can be framed to have a better feeling of how good an electric appliance is compared to its alternatives, and how much energy we would save by switching to it. Coming to a second bias, namely loss aversion. According to the behavioral scientists Kahneman and Tversky, loss aversion describes why we feel more pain when losing something than when we would gain something. In an experiment, participants were asked to bet $100 in a game of chance. A toss of a coin decided whether they would win or lose. The researchers' question was, how high must the potential win be for the participants to accept the possible loss and play along? The results showed that the win had to be twice as high as the potential loss of the stake of $100. So if a win of $200 was possible, there were significantly more players than with a potential win of $120. This phenomenon also explains another cognitive bias, namely the status quo bias. The status quo bias is a cognitive bias which explains why we prefer our current environment or situation as it is now. So our given standard can be seen as our reference point, and any deviation from this reference point feels a loss to us. Thus, there is a tendency to prefer the existing and default options. Now coming to the solution. Default policies can help here when it comes to promoting environmental friendly behavior. For example, a default setting of a thermostat to a lower baseline temperature can help to reduce energy consumption immensely. Another way how we can make use of the status quo bias is when it comes to goal setting and commitment. Behavior changes can be encouraged by setting goals like saving energy and measuring its progress by giving helpful feedback and tips. So, whereas bounded rationality deals with our limited cognitive ability to make complex decisions sometimes, bounded willpower, on the other hand, explains why we make decisions that are not in our long-term interest. Probably you might have heard of the term cognitive dissonance already. Cognitive dissonance explains the mismatch of our wanted behavior, like I want to be more eco-friendly, and our actual behavior. So I still use the car every time instead of using the public transportation, for example. This leads to a feeling of stress and pity, and sometimes we even try to hide these feelings of unease by justifying of our actions, like, well, the weather is again bad today. So coming down here to the solution, what can we do against it? There are several things that we can try out to help our behavior to change. First, set physical signs or reminders in your physical environment you go every day. So pin a reminder on the fridge which you pass by every morning, for example, to help you remember to use the public transportation today and what impact you would make. For example, by saving, how much percent of greenhouse emissions. You can also change your environment by, for example, by buying a bike, or in the most difficult case, to sell your car, so you have no other option. Second, use feedback mechanisms for routine behavior like energy consumption. As our energy consumption is not directly salient to us, it can be very helpful to provide feedback real time to increase our awareness of how much energy we are using. There are real in-time, in-home display which are connected to every meters. So here we can see directly how much energy we consumed and how much it will cost. So having talked about bounded rationality and willpower, I would like to explain the last deviation, namely the bounded self-interest. So we're individuals who do not live alone, but in a community. So we were surrounded by social norms which influence our behavior, simply because sometimes we compare us to others. The use of social norms in comparison can therefore be an effective way to change our behavior. A good intervention, for example, could be when our household energy or water consumption is compared from to another household in our neighborhood. So to sum up, cognitive biases influence our daily decision making, and behavioral science can help us to understand behavioral mechanisms to tackle environmental problems. So in this video I gave you some impulses just to think about how this can happen. But generally, individuals and policymakers should take these insights into account when designing policies or setting individual goals related to a sustainable living. Just be creative and try out one of the behavioral mechanisms or solutions that I presented here down in this video. So do you think that behavioral science can help us to promote environmental friendly behavior? Maybe also let me down in the comments below what behavioral interventions you take to promote environmental friendly behavior. So that's from my side today. I really hope that you enjoyed today's content. If you want to receive updates or if you're new to this channel, I would be happy if you would subscribe my channel. See you next time.